Earlier this year at CES 2021, ASUS showed up with a bunch of new Chromebooks, and we were so excited about those particular devices that we even made a whole video about like this whole ASUS is back in the Chromebook game, and it's cool to get excited about ASUS Chromebooks again. And that's held true so far. We haven't gotten our hands on the CX9 just yet, but we've got our hands on the CX5 and the CM5 that they announced there, and they were great Chromebooks, and we really like them. But all of that excitement had nothing to do with this Chromebook that just kind of showed up out of nowhere a few weeks ago. And it's actually the real successor, I feel like, to things like the Flip C302, the C434, and the C436 that ASUS, honestly, in the Chromebook market has been known for. So we're very excited about this device, from the specs to the look of it. We're just excited about getting our hands on it, opening up this box, and I'm sure you all are too. So let's get to it. So interestingly enough, ASUS sent over the Core i5 version of this, and this one isn't even like available yet. Not that the i7 one is either, but when they first made the announcement about this device, it came with these really high-end specs, to the point that I remember thinking like it would be an odd move for them to not release some lower-end specs, but maybe they won't. Maybe they let the 15.6-inch CX5 be the one that does that. But they have put two other tiers in there. So we start with a Core i7, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, and then all the bells and whistles that will come with this that we'll talk about here in just a second. That device comes in at $1,050, basically $1,050, which honestly, for the specs and everything you're getting, I feel like it's going to be a pretty fair price. But then we come down to this one. This is the Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM with 256 gigs of internal NVMe storage, and that comes in at $699, so it's $899 for this one. And then there's a $699 variation with a Core i3, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. So that's a lot of specs and a lot of stuff. Just know that this particular variation is about $900. This is a very high-end Chromebook, but there is an i3 variant. And as we've seen, Tiger Lake i3 chips are insanely fast. You can go back and watch our CX5, ASUS CX5 review and see that speed is no problem. So a Core i3 with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, more than enough for probably 90% of people. So they're going to have a variation of this device that we're getting ready to unbox for $700, and that's before anything goes on sale, which ASUS has already shown too that they're kind of getting in that game as well. Used to, ASUS devices came out and they never went on sale, and it was just MSRP all day long. The CX5 has been on sale multiple times already since it debuted. So all of that stuff combines, like if this thing feels nice, looks nice, and we know it's going to perform well, I mean, this could be a really, really knockout device for ASUS. And again, it's a return to a formula that's just worked for them in the past. So it's this 14-inch full HD screen, really nice build quality, nice aesthetic, all that kind of stuff. And here we are. Ooh, it's almost like a bluish tint. Hopefully that's picking up on camera there as I kind of move this thing around. But yeah, it's got like it's obviously just aluminum, silvery kind of brushed aluminum look, but it has like a blue hue to it. And I think I remember seeing somewhere in one of the pieces of marketing material, they referred to it as blue steel or blue, I don't know, some sort of marketing thing, but it's got a bluish hint to it. We're looking at a standard ASUS USB charger, and that's it in the box. So we're going to get it out of here, and there's probably a keyboard guard. Yep. And let's just take a look at this thing, because here's the deal. ASUS released the C302. People loved it. Had a very MacBook look, and I think it kind of got overshadowed by the Samsung Chromebook Pro and Plus, because those had better screens and interesting form factor and pen support and all that kind of stuff. When all those things were very new to the Chromebook space. But ASUS has been doing convertibles since the C100. And so, people really loved the C302. Well, then they brought out the C434. I remember going to Vegas and not knowing exactly what that was going to be and picking it up the first time and being like, man, this is great. Like 14 inches, tiny bezels, all that stuff. And a lot of people loved that device equally. I loved it. I used it for a long time. And then the 436 came out alongside the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook. I remember that CES as well, and going in and picking that 436 up and realizing, I don't know that I love this thing. And as we got it, it kind of had some flimsy parts to it. It was using some sort of alloy material that was kind of metal, but really felt like plastic. And so with this, they've returned to an all aluminum build this time around. You know, we've got really nice specs on the inside, a 300 nit screen, so they had kind of slacked off on the screen. And for the first time in the whole, 14-inch flip line, we've got a stowable stylus on the side too. So important notes here, because again, this isn't a cheap Chromebook by any stretch of the imagination, but $699 is right there with the Acer Chromebook Spin 713 and devices like the HP Chromebook X360 14C that, in that $600 to $700 range for a Tiger Lake device with 8 gigs of RAM and plenty of 128 gigs of storage. And so if you want to bump up from there, it's nice to know that ASUS is going to have options for people that want to do that, because I can tell you right now, just picking this thing out of the box, this thing feels awesome. I think it's right around 3 pounds. It doesn't feel like 3 pounds. It feels a little bit lighter than that, but I think that's just because we've got these kind of nice bevels around the edges here, where just it's got that kind of shiny look, but it's not sharp, but it feels very grippy. Feels very nice. Again, that kind of powdered aluminum coating. And definitely this is all aluminum. Yeah, you can just tell. It kind of has a nice cool feel to it whenever you pick it up. As far as ports go, we've got a USB Type-A, micro SD card slot. We've got a headphone microphone jack and a USB Type-C over here. And then flip around the other side, just a USB Type-C over here. Again, that stowable stylus, that is not, it's not like spring loaded or anything. It's just you reach in there and pull it out. We'll take a look at it while we're here. Pretty standard fare here. Nice little ASUS branding. Obviously some spots there for recharging because it's USI, so it's going to need some power. So whenever you have this thing docked, it's going to keep itself charged up. No worries there. Comfortable enough to use short term, but it's obviously, if you want, and I said this a long time ago when USI styluses first came out, include one in the Chromebook that's like this. It's always here, and if I need it in a pinch, I can grab it. But I've got a couple USI styluses now in my cup over by my desk. So if I were going to sit down and draw or write for a long time, I'm probably going to pick one of those more comfortable ones up, and guess what? Just touch it to the screen and it starts working immediately. So that's kind of the benefit of USI in general. So pretty awesome there. So there's your ports. One thing that's probably of note that you may have already picked up on, there are no fan ports here. So there is a version of the Tiger Lake, 11th gen Tiger Lake chips that don't require fans. So they're a lower TDP, so we don't have any fan ports, and it supposedly won't need them. Obviously, for the review, we're going to have to test that out, make sure there's no overheating. We've got some bottom firing speakers here that, interestingly enough, have ports on the side as well. So they're kind of bottom and side firing speakers. So again, really nice, again, bluish aesthetic coming off here. And let's crack this thing open. And right off the bat, I can tell you one thing that they fixed with this is the keyboard. I'm just actually going to pull the screen out of the way here. The keyboard with this, if you remember, the Flip C436 was terrible at this, and the 434 wasn't great, but they both had the same color keys, the chassis, and it was honestly, it was hard to see the symbols and the numbers and stuff on the keyboard a lot of times. It was really, really off-putting and kind of hard to use a lot of times. And so they've kind of gone with a different color on the keys here than the chassis, which is great. They've gone with a very dark symbol on the keys themselves. So without the backlighting on, very easy to see this in light. So good. They took some notes from some critiques and clearly went about fixing the issue there. Now let's see. Yeah, glass trackpad, nice and wide. I mean, that thing is, 1.5 the width of my hands. It's a little narrow top to bottom, but no real concerns there. Very nice click. Again, these are the things you expect in Chromebooks that cost a little bit more money. The trackpad shouldn't be flopping around. The keyboard should feel good. The entire thing should feel solid, which this does. Again, this is an aluminum upper as well. So the whole thing here is made of aluminum. I can pick this thing up and feel, I mean, it is substantial. Like this is like Pixelbook Go kind of firmness here. So you pick this thing up and there's no feeling of like, ooh, it's kind of creaky or oh, it's a little bendy. There's none of that going on here. The center of this chassis is very firm. And let's give these a type. A little louder than some of the Chromebooks we've had recently. But yeah, they feel great. Really good click, really good travel. And once we get it powered on, we'll see the backlighting and stuff like that. So we're gonna cut away real quick just so I get this thing powered on and we can take a look at the screen. All right, we've got logged in and all booted up and going here. And ASUS lists this as a 300 nit panel. That looks right on point. The 1080p screen looks great. Viewing angles look really good. And hopefully you can pick up on the camera there. You know, it's a standard IPS panel, so there's no surprises here. It's 16:9 as well, so they're not trying to pull any like tall display stuff out of here. But once we hit 14 inches, I'm pretty okay with a 16:9 panel. It's the 3x2 helps you when you're in a 12 or 13 inch screen size. So screen looks really good here, and that's been an issue for ASUS devices in the past, where they either put dim or kind of blown out displays on. From what I can tell here, this thing looks really good. And again, at 14 inches, 1080p looks nice and sharp. There's no real issues there. I forgot all about this, but it's got a camera block here in the top. And usually you kind of have to get in and grind those things. This thing's nice and just, I don't know, well balanced and loose. You can just flick your camera closed or open. I again think that this needs to be on basically every laptop, not just Chromebooks, just laptops in general. As much as we're all jumping in meetings these days and our face on the camera constantly, the ability to know for sure that you can go up there and just flip that and know that it's closed off, that's just a nice touch. As I was logging in and getting everything up and going, again, the keyboard felt great. The click on it's really good. I think this is going to be a fantastic keyboard. I'll show you the backlighting real quick. You can probably capture that. We have quite a bit of light coming in over here. And what you're probably seeing is it's a little hard to see those letters from different angles. And that's just normal with grayish keys. Microsoft deals with it with their Surface devices. That's just part of it. In general, what you're going to want to do when you're not using not needing backlight, so that you're in a bright situation like we're in now, just turn it off. But the nice part is once you turn them off, you can see your keys just fine here this time around. So I'm completely cool with that whenever they do that. Sometimes I just wish they'd do like charcoal or dark black keys no matter what, because then we never have to worry about this. But it is what it is. It looks kind of nice when it's open. So I'll give them a pass here. The keyboard feels really good. And again, the trackpad in the couple minutes of signing in felt really nice. I just can't get over how good this whole thing looks just in general. The whole thing feels so solid, so well built, so well put together that I'm just... yeah, I'm really happy with this, because the ASUS Flip C436 was one of those devices I wanted to like a whole lot, but like it kind of felt flimsy here and there, and I opened it up and the bottom half really felt flimsy and the screen was just okay. It feels like all those things are kind of fixed up here. We've got a great build quality. We've got the same really awesome ASUS keyboard that I've kind of come to know and love. We've got a great trackpad, a really good looking screen so far. Hopefully the camera performs pretty well. You know, and obviously blisteringly fast internals. So the Core i5 in the 11th gen is just going to be insanely fast. And the benefit of the i5 is you've got that dedicated or integrated GPU from Intel, the Xe graphics, that, you know, when Steam games come along later in the year, it'd be nice to be able to run some games on this thing too. And this thing will absolutely handle it. The only question mark with this Chromebook right now is whether or not those thermals are going to stay in check. And we just won't know that until we do our review, because ultimately this chipset should be lower TDP. It should pull less wattage, get good battery life, and not get crazy hot. And it may not perform quite as well as the big fanned Core i3, i5, i7. But from what we can tell so far, it should perform very, very closely and not need fans and all that other kind of stuff. But we're gonna have to spend some time with it to make sure that's the case, because ultimately if it's overheating and pulling back the processor performance in order to keep it from going crazy, then, you know, that's an issue we need to let you guys know about. But for now, that's it for this one. If you like this video, go down there and give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and make sure and hit the notification icon if you'd like to be alerted when we make future videos just like this one, and when we put out our review of what looks like to be one of the most excellent Chromebooks made here in 2021. Till next time, we'll see you.